Hello everybody, and now for your marine forecast issued on Monday, June 24th. First of all, for our sea ice, it continues to retreat northward. Still a little bit of shore-fast ice on the Russian side, but other than that, through the Bering Strait now, a little bit attached to St. Lawrence Island, but otherwise still some shore-fast ice as you go up into the Chukchi. For tonight's weather, we've got a 982 millibar low, a little bit stronger than what we normally see at this time of year, moving in across the Aleutians into the Bering Sea, full occluded front around that, 1021 millibar high over the Gulf of Alaska, and we also have a kind of a weak system, 1008 millibars, very slowly moving eastward, and what we call a thermal trough over the interior, and that is a trough caused by warm temperatures and the air lifting due to the warmth. So for Tuesday, that system is now down to 976 millibars. It's across the Aleutians and still well southwest of the Pribilofs, but the Aleutians and the Pribilofs and starting to feel it along Nunivak Island and the southwest coast as well as the Alaska Peninsula. So that system is moving slowly toward the north-northeast. Meanwhile, 1021 millibar high over the Gulf of Alaska and plenty of thunderstorms over the interior with that thermal trough indicated over the central interior. For Wednesday, that system now is hanging around at a 977 millibars, full occluded front. A secondary system has developed to 1006 millibars south of Kodiak Island. A little bit of onshore flow, lots of coastal wind with this as far as summertime goes, but there's your thermal trough still over the central interior and plenty of thunderstorms inland. So, starting out with the marine forecast for southeast Alaska. For Tuesday, on the inside water, southerly winds about 10 knots, seas around 2 feet, not a whole lot going on. A little bit of westerly component on the outside, 10 knots, seas up to 3 feet, nothing really causing a big swell to arrive yet. And then looking at Wednesday's forecast, again around 10 knots on the inside water, seas 2 feet. Ramping up, however, with that high pressure offshore to about 15 knot northwesterlies on the outside, seas up to 4 feet, and you start to feel a little bit of swell with 5-foot seas down off of Dixon Entrance, westerly 10 off of Cape Suckling. For south central, what we've got is a lot of 10 knot winds in the eastern sections, including Prince William Sound. Seas 2 to 3 feet or so, not a real good stiff direction, but notice the easterlies now, seas 3 to 4 feet through Kennedy Entrance and off of northern off of Kodiak Island. Also Cook Inlet, southwesterlies about 15 knots or so, seas 3 feet. And then on Wednesday, it's starting to ramp up in Cook Inlet. Southwesterly 20 knots, seas 4 feet, maybe even up to 5 feet as you get past Kenai. And then southeasterlies, 20 knots, seas 5 feet through Kennedy Entrance, 15 knots in the eastern section, seas 3 feet, and 10 knots in Prince William Sound. For the Alaska Peninsula, everything's starting to come around to easterlies, and even Chillicothe Strait is northeast at 20 knots, seas 4 feet. But we start seeing 25 and 30 knot small craft advisory winds and seas. Only 10 knots off of Kodiak Island, but some of those sea states now starting to see 8 feet down by False Pass, and even on the Bering Sea side, 6 feet, down to 4 feet in Bristol Bay, but definitely a stiff breeze due to that approaching low. It starts to even ramp up a little bit more with some 30 knot winds in Bristol Bay, and then off of Perryville or so, 25 knot southerlies north of Coal Bay, 25 knots in the intermediate area off the Alaska Peninsula, and even southeasterlies 15 knots, seas 4 feet in Chillicothe Strait, 5 feet on the outside. So for the Aleutians, there you see that circulation around that surface low there. Winds, certainly gale force, a lot of 40 knots, at least ranging 40 to 30 knots or so. Now, note that sea state, all the way up to 15 feet or so on the Pacific side, and then on the Bering Sea side as high as 14 feet. That low moves further north. You get in that southerly area where the strongest winds are around the low, and start seeing all kinds of gale force winds, 35 to 40 knots. As you get a little further out west, 25 to 30 knots. But notice all those sea states in the teens, including down off Nikolsky and off of Atka, 17 to 18 feet. And then for the west coast, the winds are already starting to ramp up on Tuesday, anywhere ranging 15 to 25 knots. Seas up to 4 feet, 6 feet out by St. Matthew, and 11 feet near the Pribilofs. And then for Wednesday, starting to see some of those gale force winds. And that's due to that low pressure system that's moving up toward St. Paul. 35 knot gales in the Pribilof, seas 14 feet, 40 knots off of Cape Newenham, seas 11 feet. And then as you get further north, like Cape Romanzoff, 30 to 35 knots. In the Norton Sound, about 20 knots, seas 4 feet. For the Arctic coast waters, a lot of easterlies, and that's due to a high pressure system to the north there with the center up north of the Alcan. So the easterlies 10 to 15 knots, seas and ice-free waters around 2 feet or so. And then starting to feel a little bit of that wind with the low 10 to 15 knots or so, 15 knots in Norton Sound. And then as we get to Wednesday, start to change around a little bit to southerly, at least the southerly component of wind, 15 to 25 knots down by the Bering Strait, seas up to 6 feet, certainly for St. Lawrence Island. But then along the north slope, 10 to 15 knots, and in the ice-free water, seas around 2 feet. So that's it for your marine forecast. Please stay safe out there, and thanks for tuning in.